One of the topics that's been coming up a lot lately is this idea of the 40-hour work week. Should we be having 40-hour work weeks? Does it really matter? There's articles probably every other week in major newspapers or opinion pieces saying something like, oh, the 40-hour work week is dead. That's a holdover from the industrial era. We should be working 30 hours or 20 hours or just whatever we need to make us happy. And that is everywhere. And look, I agree. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but I agree that the 40-hour work week is sort of an arbitrary number. If you listen to my episode with Dr. Kelly Kapic, he talked about pre-industrial times, how people worked more seasonally. If you were in an agricultural society, you'd hustle in the spring to plant, you'd hustle in the fall to harvest. But a lot of times in between, there wasn't much actual work to do. And so this sort of flattening out of how much we work each week and making that consistent over the whole year, that's a relatively new invention. And so some of those criticisms about the 40-hour work week, I think, are well taken. It is arbitrary, right? Why isn't it 50? Why isn't it 20? Who decides how much is enough work? If you don't meet that number, are you being lazy? How much is enough? How much should we be working? How much should we be making? Especially if you're productivity minded, you tend to maybe be a bit more ambitious. And so when you think about how much is enough, that's a goal that is always moving further and further. And this is a problem with humans in general. It's greed, basically. I always want to raise, I always want a bigger house, I always want a better car. I read an article this morning. They said 1/3 of Americans making $250,000 live paycheck to paycheck. So 1/3 of people who are making $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think that's just evidence of this thing that we're talking about is we always want a little bit more. So I think with this whole question of if I could work less and make enough to survive, would that be okay for me as a Christian? The big thing is where your heart is at. That's really the whole point. I could have just said that and we could have saved ourselves 30 minutes here. But that's really the whole thing. I think if you can position yourself such that you need less money and have more time, then do so. But only if by doing that, you are enabling yourself to serve God better. And that doesn't have to be just in a church. There could be other avenues for that. But if you're just doing that so you can laze around, so you can waste time, you're missing the mark. You can serve God just fine working 40 hours a week or being fully retired or as a full-time homemaker or a full-time minister. So I think the main thing you need to be thinking about is, how do I be productive where I'm planted? How do I put Christ first in everything I do so that he is honored, he is glorified? That's the big question. If you learn to manage your time better, you can make more money. You can. And you can also buy yourself more time. But just be wary that your reason for pursuing those things really is that you might honor God better.